Steve, you've been here for 5 months now.
Is it that long?
I'm not sure whether that's gone quickly for you or slowly for you. But could I just first of all take you back to the time when you left Hull in July last year? I know you've told us since that you were planning to take a little bit longer out and then this job came about. But in the period that you did have off, the few months, what did you get up to?
What did I do? Well, I'm fortunate that I've got a property abroad in Portugal, and I basically went there for a long holiday. So we spent May, June, July, August, September, mainly in Portugal, and played a bit of golf and did a bit of cycling and just did nothing basically. I just think at the time I needed a bit of a break and needed a rest. And as I've said to you many times, I thought at the time I was going to take probably a year off and see what comes after that year. But when I got the call here, then I cut the holiday short.
And when you did arrive here, what would you say surprised you most about Aston Villa?
Well, after living in the area, I don't think nothing really surprised me. Of course, because you know when you're inside the club and you work in the club, then you think it's like any other. But when you're from the outside, totally, you understand what a big club it is, and of course the history, the tradition, the achievements that the club's won. You know, it's up in the top half a dozen of clubs that have won the most in the history. So in that respect, from the outside, always looking in, and of course, you know, Villa Park is iconic. You know, it's one of the classic stadiums, and the training ground, what we work at every day, is up there with as good as anything there is in the country. So all of the bits and pieces were there. And of course, when you get a job, like even in this one, you know, usually there's something wrong, or you're in a bad way of form or whatever. And it's fair to say over the last 2, 3, 4 years, wherever it is, you know, the club has had a bit of a struggle. And that can happen.
Can I just ask you a little bit about Dr. Tony Sharp? Because we all know he's very passionate, very prominent on social media, and likes to integrate and liaise with the fans and meet the fans when he's over here. How important is that for you as the manager?
Well, I think for all of us, what the club needs more than anything is stability at the top. Any club that's been successful, any club going forward, has got a stability at the top. If there's no stability at the top, i.e. there's unrest, then it filters down right the way from the top of the club to the bottom. And it filters to the supporters in the end, which, let's be fair, they are the most important part of any football club, because without their support, there wouldn't be a football club. So it adds to the unrest of everything. So his stability, and there's no secret that he wants the club to succeed, and he's been successful himself. So once you usually get that combination of somebody who's driven by success, then usually that drives everybody else. And from the first time I met him, I knew his standards are very, very high. He wants the club to be back where it should be, like we all do. And of course, he's young and enthusiastic, and wants the club to achieve, which is obviously great for all of us, whether you're a supporter of the club, member of staff, or even me as the manager. It's good for everybody that he has this energy.
And of course, you're the manager here. I know you've got a very close coaching team with Colin Calderwood, Stephen Clements, Gary Walsh. How does that particular dynamic work? Because I know it can vary from club to club in terms of the roles that they will
Well, the one thing that I try to bring to any club is you're just as important to me as the guy in the cameraman, the girl in the canteen. You're all part of the club. So of course I rely on Colin and Stephen to help me and assist. But for example, yesterday we had a staff golf day, which we all went and had a round of golf and had a bit of a laugh and a few beers afterwards. I only think that can help. So we need all of them on board to do their little bit to achieve too. So all of them are an arm of myself. And thankfully I've been able to bring in Colin, who I've never worked with before, but he's been there, done it, wore the t-shirt. And of course, he's got that little bit of Aston Villa in him where he played here. Stephen Clements and Gary Walsh have worked with me for years, so they know what to expect. But I think it's vitally important for all of us, for the club to move forward, is we are in it together, and the staff, whether you are a masseur, whether you're a doctor, whether you're in the media, whether you're the cook, whether you're the cleaner, they're just as important as the star centre forward.
And of course, from your job is such an all-encompassing job, and it must be very, very difficult to switch off. So how do you do that personally?
I'm fortunate when I go home. I'm now granddads, and my two granddaughters don't care who I am. I'm granddad to them, so that helps. But I'm like anybody else. I think it's vitally important that you can switch off. There's times when I have to get out of the place for a day or two, because it engrosses you if you're not careful. So I think that's vitally important, that to switch off. I do things like my dog. I enjoy walking the dog. I enjoy a game of golf, and I enjoy a good film. So in that respect, that's what I do. I'm just like anybody normal. But what I've learned over the years is not to try and beat yourself up too much when things are going against you, because they do. Unless you're very, very fortunate in management, you come up some tough times in terms of results. And then the most key thing is not get too carried away when you go on a bit of a decent run. I hope that going forward with this club, that we got off to a great start, had a horrible middle part, and now we're recovering again. So I hope I can just keep it on an equal, and not have big troughs of ups and downs, and keep it on a level playing field, which that would be ideal if we can manage that.
Now, you clearly love football and still have the same passion that you had 20 years ago. What one word would sum up your life in management, would you say?
Oh, one word. Look, management's tough. Management is another arm for me. I enjoyed playing so much. It's the best days of your life. They don't realise, because it's over like this. And when it was over for me, playing football was, well, what's the next step? And I thought I was going to go and work with under-18s. And then I got the job to be a player manager and thought, well, that's the next step. So I've been really fortunate. I've been in it 40 years, 20 years as a player, 20 years now as probably a manager. I've been fortunate, but you're right about one thing. I'm still as enthusiastic about it, especially the challenge that this one brings. I've been waiting a long time for a job like this, so I'll try my best.
I know you've said to us recently you felt that the playoffs or the promotion places in general perhaps are a bit much, a bit of a lost cause, but now you're starting to see that gap decrease a little bit. Do you, in some of your more private moments, think we might have a chance here?
Well, we've got a squeak. The thing that disappoints me is even if we're just been poor form in January, not awful. I mean, we picked up 1 point in 6 games or whatever it was, which was awful run. If we had just picked up a poor run, would have been 5 or 6 points. Then 5 or 6 points onto where we are now, there would have been a few people looking over their shoulders thinking, can Aston Villa come with a run? So the important thing for me is to progress, see the club progress, see the team progress, let the new lads who we've brought in, and there's been a big change last summer and at Christmas time, we need them to bed in. Thankfully they're doing that. There's, I believe, shoots of recovery. I hope anyway. There's certainly a better spirit amongst the players in terms of their togetherness, which is important. The next step, of course, is to keep getting the results and get a team together which is capable of mounting a challenge to get out of this division.
We've got a campaign going on at the club at the moment called My Villa Moments. So thinking about that, what would you say is your best Villa moment to date?
My best Villa moment to date. I would have to say it was early on, the second game when we won in the last minute at Reading would have to be the Villa moment at the minute, because I didn't realise that all the staff hadn't won for 18 months. The way the supporters were, the way the staff were, you'd think we'd qualified for Europe. And I remember just thinking to myself, wow, we've had one result away from home, and look at the difference in everybody. So I think that one, going back to my early days, and of course the big one was getting the job, getting the phone call, was the probably one of the great phone calls you get was will you come and have a chat? And then of course after that was, what do you think about putting your backroom staff together? Then you think you've got a squeak. So the all-time Villa moment was the away goal at Reading and that phone call to say you've got the job.
Now you've had a bit of time now to assess the squad, see what you're working with and get to know the lads. Is there a particular individual that's impressed you?
Well, it's not right to single out individuals, but I have to say a big pat on the back to the young one, Greenie. Young Andre come in and me hour of need. And I thought about putting the young one in, you know, because we're on an awful run. And the young one give the crowd a lift. He played well on the day, he could have scored. And so it wouldn't be right for me to pick individuals, but certainly Greenie at a vital time for us as a young lad came in and played with no fear, which sometimes a young boy can do.
And if we don't quite make it this season, are you confident that next season that you will be pushing for perhaps that
Well, I'm always
spot?
confident that I can get a team together that can get out of this division. I've done it before. It would be terrific to do it here. It's never going to be easy because of who we are. We are the big scalp in this division and everybody wants to turn us over. And the teams who come to Villa Park want to perform in the big stadium, big arena. So all of the bits and pieces make it difficult, but I'm quietly confident that we'll be able to mount a challenge and hopefully we're going to be good enough, because the one thing that we need at a club like ours is to play at in the big league. So we'll try our best.
Now you've been full of praise for the supporters so far during your tenure here. Now if you had the opportunity to speak to them all directly, which I know would be very, very rare, what would be your message to try and encourage them to come again in the numbers next season?
Well, I think their support is, we just seen it on Saturday, 5,000 travelling fans to Wigan on a horrible afternoon is quite remarkable for a team that is lying mid-table in the Championship. There's not many other clubs would be able to boast that. So I think the message to all of them, from all of us, is a big thank you. They've stayed fiercely loyal, as which a big club is all about. They've had tough times over the last couple of years, and but so the message is a big thank you, and keep coming, because you know, without the supporters, as I said at the top of the interview, there's no football club.
And you had a big January in terms of transfers. Is it fair to say that the summer's about tinkering and tweaking that squad?
There won't be huge turnover this summer. I don't think the club can expect to do that again, because we've seen huge turnovers in the last couple of years. So 1 or 2, that little bit of quality is what we're looking for now. I've got a squad which I'm delighted about. If there's a player or a couple of players who can make that big bit of difference, then 1 or 2 rather than 8 or 10, and I can't see many going out the other way either.
You mentioned the academy again earlier and cited Andre's rise as the perfect example, really.
Yeah.
I know that you've got a particular vision with the way you like these things to operate. Is there any way you could outline that for us slightly?
Well, I think it's vitally important, and I have to say, over the years, the academy at this club has done remarkably well. We've seen the captain of England came through the ranks here, Gary Cahill. So I think it's vitally important that you do have the door open. The club historically has done terrifically well, and we're trying our best to get it back up there. It's not easy now with the big clubs the way they are, and the way we've seen Manchester City's academy the other day perform against us. So on the quiet though, we've got some very, very decent players. And as I've always done, if they're good enough, there's nothing better than a young fella to come through, like Andre Green here, our need. And of course, I haven't seen much of Hepburn Murphy yet because he's been injured for the last 3 months. So Keenan Davis is another one where we've given another chance. And we've got 2, 3 others who've quietly gone about their jobs. And my message to them, the way it has to work, is that we have to encourage the youngsters. If we're going to have a successful academy, can I have 3 or 4 of them in my squad to bolster my squad? And I think that's the way forward. And they're working tirelessly, all the people behind the staff and the players themselves, to try and get in there. And
the fans are of course eager to know about the future of Sam Johnstone. Are you eager to try and buy him in the summer? I'm going to try and go and see Mr. Mourinho next year.
I think everybody agrees. Sam needed to go and play some football, and the difference between him now than it was 3 months ago is there for everybody to see. He's grown into the role. He's now more comfortable in his role, and he's got that by playing. And we've given him that platform to play. If there's an opportunity that we can get him to play more next year, then I'd love to do it. So I will be having that conversation with Mr. Mourinho when the time's right. But I hope that we can extend it.
And in terms of the current injury situation here, which will hopefully get easier for you over the next couple of weeks, we've got Nathan Baker, Gabby Agbonlahor, Andre Green, Berke Bjarnason and Rushan Hepburn-Murphy are the ones I've got down. I could have missed one or two there, I appreciate, because there's been so many. Do you have a particular update on any of those so far?
Well, we're hoping that Hepburn-Murphy's maybe next week. Agbonlahor, we're hoping back end of the week. Berke's going to be another 4 or 5 weeks. It's going to be a bit early for him. So we have got a few coming back. How we won the game on Saturday was the centre forward. For myself, the 2 changes what I could make helped us enormously. Lansbury coming on and Scotty coming on was a huge boost to the team and for everybody concerned, and got us over the line, got us the win. So the more options that we have, the better. I don't think I've had injuries as bad as what we've had. We had 9 or 10 missing, which is quite remarkable when you think we've only got a squad of 23. So 9 or 10 missing. Well done to the ones who stuck at it and got us out that hole which we were in.